Hello and Happy New Year, everybody. Alex and I have our first video for the year. We have quite a bit to say today and the week's coming. So I want to kind of dive right into the two subjects. I want to talk a little bit about the Venezuelan situation, how that's affecting the economy overall, how we're taking advantage of that. And then I want to really highlight, I think most people have heard a lot about AI and think it's a big deal. I want to show why it's probably a bigger deal than most people think. So I'm allowed to you to share with our clients our observations and opportunities we see with Venezuela and what's taking place down there right now.
Absolutely. First and foremost, Happy New Year to everybody. Hope everybody had a great holiday. It was pretty quiet in the markets, to be honest. And then all of a sudden, Venezuela got liberated, as they say. So President Trump sent in the Navy SEALs Team 6 to essentially arrest Maduro. And, from our point of view, he was a socialist dictator. And really, in terms of how the market reacted, I think it's going to be a net positive. Obviously, they have tremendous resources, oil, minerals, and we only had one company still operating there, Chevron, um, getting oil out of the ground. So it looks like their consensus is they're going to move back in and be able to extract a lot of the oil resources. Funny fact is the only place you can really refine these oil resources that are in Venezuela is Louisiana, Texas, Gulf region because it's a very thick, heavy crude. So I think that's going to be a net beneficiary for the oil industry here in America. But if you looked at the market's reaction, a lot of different types of companies went up a lot, mainly companies that were operating in South America. One in which we own called Mercado Libre. We've owned this for a few years now. We've done pretty well with it so far, but it had a tremendous up day yesterday because um, in the past, maybe 10 years ago, Venezuela was only about 14% of its total revenue. And so, because of the economic situation there in the last 10 years, it basically went down to almost zero, like single digits. And so, if Mercado Libre is allowed to operate there, which they're already operating everywhere in South America, Argentina, Brazil, they're essentially imagine PayPal and Amazon combined. They are all that for South America, Mexico. And so the stock reacted quite positively. I don't think people were ready to look at this in any shape or form. So the potential gain, I have no idea, but overall it was a net winner for us. And we don't have any major exposure to the energy side of this, but if something were to become an opportunity, we would definitely take a look at it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people on the street, Alex, going to say, "Well, shouldn't we chase that because that's going to be an opportunity? Let's go chase what's already been seen." Of course, I realize when you say that you're late. So that I think that's the issue there. I think the bigger issue is I always liked an interview when they interviewed Wayne Gretzky and asked him, "But Wayne, how do you do so well? What's your strategy?" And he says, "Well, I skate to where the puck's going to be." And I'm telling you, Alex, I think there's not a person you're going to visit that understands how big AI is going to be. I was just amazed reading just the past week or so that Microsoft is saying, "Hey, look, it's something we said recently, I think in our last video about the energy crisis, right? Microsoft saying they have chips right now they can't use because they don't have the power to operate the facility." So talk a little bit about AI, energy, and how we're skating to where the puck is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now is a very interesting time and it's important to pay attention. There's going to be a lot of monumental changes, not only in the economy, in the stock market, and generally how we all operate or do our day-to-day business. I mean, AI is in its infancy still, and it's about to take over everything. I mean, we're already using it in a tremendous way here at JCN to enhance our efforts and our research capabilities. But really, like you just said, they're rushing to build all these data centers, which essentially are just computer warehouses. I mean, that's what it is. It's these massive buildings out in the middle of nowhere sometimes that are just running computers. And that's essentially training the AI. And then the next part of this, it's actually going to run the AI. There's two different things. And so we made some portfolio changes seeing this evolution happening, not major ones, but we just kind of tilted the portfolio a little bit in this sense where they're going to have to increase the power capacity in America in order to reach these goals at least fourfold, at least. And so the White House has even put out a directive called Genesis, where they're going to support companies to build out and update the power infrastructure here in the United States. So that's everything: solar, wind, hydrogen, nuclear, natural gas. I mean, we need to ramp this up quickly because they're viewing it as a national security issue where we need to win the AI race versus China winning the AI race. Unfortunately, China's been building nuclear power plants for many, many years, and their capacity is not limited. So we have to catch up in a major, major way. So anytime the government puts this massive effort behind any specific sector, I mean, it's not easy. It's not hard to see that who's going to benefit. So we just want to skate where the puck is going and orient our portfolio in a way that would maximally benefit us with same or less risk.
Yeah, Alex, I don't think it's one of the things I most enjoy about what you and I and Chris do is we spend some time thinking about what to do, not just doing the same old thing over and over. And our conversation yesterday kind of highlighted that with Apple and with Apple phone and iPhones and AI. And the conversation is that right now that with the new chips coming out for phones, there's not a phone made that can handle the chip. So they're going to need new phones, and Apple is going to be a great, great supplier of all those new phones. And I just think the ability to be cognizant of what's happening around us is really important, and not to be in a staged position. I also find it very interesting, Alex, when I read quotes from people that I respect a lot, and we all respect Elon Musk. He's our generation's genius, but his view on the economy in the next 5 years is a lot more bullish or a lot more positive than most financial experts are. And I weight him heavier because he's in the battlefield having it take place. Share your thoughts on that just a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. He threw out some crazy numbers, and I was trying to wrap my head around how is he thinking this? I mean, to say a 5 or 6% GDP number is historically a fantastic number, but typically really hard to hit. Usually you only see growth numbers like that when you're coming out of a deeply negative economy. But what they're missing this time around is the AI and the robotics that are coming are going to bring massive productivity gains. So for you know, the novice, productivity is how many units of output you get for how many units of input that you pay for. So beforehand, if you wanted more units of output, you'd have to hire more people. Now you can hire one person that knows how to do AI, and he can essentially replicate and expand the jobs of, if not tens of people, maybe thousands of people with one person. So the productivity gains are really unknown. And he was throwing up numbers like 25% GDP or 15% GDP. And I was like, how is he getting this? So really it's the scale of which AI is capable is where they're getting this number. And I think anything that you see now in the workplace, somebody somewhere is retooling, redismantling, and trying to figure out a way to enhance it and improve it with AI.
Look at our own company, Alex, how much more productive it's made us in the last year. I mean, things we're doing now that we used to have the third party out, we're doing now, we're doing it better. So I think it's a net positive if you have your eyes open, if you got a vision. I was viewing a portfolio last week, Alex. We had some stocks in there that companies you and I think are going to go away because of AI. And this particular person, their largest two positions were these dinosaur stocks. Stocks, by the way, that lost money the last 5 years. So I'm very, very excited about where we are right now. And I think what I'm reading is that the AI is going to help a lot of people, but it's going to hurt a certain segment of people. And I think that if you sit in your hands and you're complacent, that's where you get hurt. And we're just not going to be either of those.
Absolutely. The two examples I always bring up when we talk about this are Blockbuster, Netflix. There was a Blockbuster on every corner. I remember going there as a kid, Friday nights, get a movie, get a pizza, and you had your Friday night covered. As soon as streaming came out, Blockbuster basically went to zero in a couple years. The other example is Kodak film. Everybody had cameras, they had a monopoly on the film industry. And when the digital camera came out in the 90s, Kodak disappeared essentially overnight. So I think we're in the same situation where big technology companies or even other types of companies, now you can essentially replicate their entire products for zero. I mean, very, very cheap. And so if you're a smaller company and you want to create your own XYZ piece of technology, kind of like what we're trying to do here in certain cases, I mean, you're not only going to save thousands of dollars on this, you can customize it to your business. So I think this is going to be major, major theme is broken compounders. There's a couple people already writing about this where these entrenched companies that seem to have a large moat are going to be slowly disrupted and then possibly quickly disrupted.
Yeah,
So
Alex, that's going to happen to a lot of financial advisors across this country. I would tell you that I think a majority of them are going to be just too late because one, they're not actually managing the investment money themselves. They're hiring a fund, and because they're not studying on a daily basis, they're oblivious to that train coming down the track. And so we do see a train coming down the track, and rather than get run over by it, we want to hop on it and ride to its destination.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, here I'll give you a real example of what we're doing here today. I've been playing around with Grok, the one of the AIs, XAI that Elon Musk owns, and I basically built a little program that reads all the news from any source every single day, all day long about all the companies that we own. It then summarizes it to me daily and sends it to me so I can digest it. And then it also gives me further analysis on does this pose a risk or does this pose a benefit to our portfolio holding. So it's not technically replacing me, it's enhancing my ability to do my job better by analyzing much more information and doing it in a way that can be more tactful in how we view our investments.
Well, I think we've given people a lot to chew on this morning, but I find it just what you just shared immensely adds to our efficiency because we can do more of what we do best. So we have a speakers bureau that you definitely want to attend. We're going to cover a couple things that'll be really informative for you, and we're going to have a nice catered meal as well. So when you get the invitation, please reserve as soon as you can. All right,
See you.
gang. Talk to y'all soon. Take care.